My crazy journey after revealing a deep secret. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. My stepfather, the town's saint, hissed, "Recant, before I end you." That's how last Tuesday started. A threat whispered across my mother's kitchen island while the coffee machine gurgled and a charity calendar with smiling toddlers stared back at us. I'm Alex, 31, a municipal building inspector with a clipboard, a tape measure, and an allergy to shortcuts. My job isn't glamorous, but it keeps roofs from caving, sprinklers from failing, exits from locking shut. If I compromise on ethics, people get hurt. If I stand firm, I still might lose my job, health insurance, and the tiny apartment where I keep my books in neat stacks like ballast. Victor Hale has taught this city how to clap on command. His foundation bankrolls literacy fairs and gala auctions. His photo, dimples, steel hair, hand on a child's shoulder, hangs in clinics and bank lobbies. Years back, when he married my mother, he said he liked that I believed in rules. Then he learned rules could say no to him. For 4 months, I kept a secret. I was the anonymous whistleblower who filed a report with the state charity office after seeing numbers that did not add up. A grant recorded, a check missing, a vendor paid before approval, an emergency donor advised transfer that landed nowhere we could verify. I sent screenshots, dates, vendor IDs. I thought I was protecting children at the free clinic, not detonating my family. Last week, I told them. I told my mother at her sink because the investigator would contact principal soon. I told my sister Jessa at the table where we used to argue about dishes. Then Victor walked in with that mild, televised smile, and when the others stepped away, he leaned close. "You recant now," he murmured, "or I ruin your life until you beg." I believed him. He has friends who can label me hostile to development and claim I slowed permits. He has donors who will forward emails to my director with edited outrage. He has my mother's attention and my sister's rent. But I also have the paper trail, the dates, and the way my chest tightens when I imagine being silent while people lose medicine because a man needs a marble foyer. I looked at him and said nothing. That was the loudest thing I have ever done. And before the day ended, the first consequence arrived with a knock I could not ignore. Victor didn't always live in pressed suits and donor dinners. I remember him before the foundation, when he sold office furniture and learned names. He married my mother when I was 15, 2 years after my father died. Back then, Victor bought us pizza and made me feel noticed. Then newspapers profiled him. Checks got larger, phones turned sleek, and he divided people into winners and nice volunteers. Quiet work like mine started sounding like a moral hobby to him. He called me City Tape Boy, a joke that always bruised. At birthdays, he would click his tongue when I turned down second wine because I was on call for storm inspections. "Dream bigger," he'd say, and tap his glass so we all looked. When I took the civil service exam, he said I chose the slow lane, like integrity was laziness in a badge. My mother, Elise, prefers calm seas. She'd rub my elbow after his jabs and say, "He means well, Alex. He just pushes too hard." She liked his pianos for schools, and that a cardiologist would call. She didn't like when I asked follow-up questions. Jessa, my sister, knew how to laugh at the right times and avoid the wrong topics. She teaches art at a private academy, made possible by a bridge donation from Victor when tuition lagged. She calls it networking, not dependence at all. The fresh wound came at a fundraiser 3 weeks ago. The theme was Cities of Tomorrow, which meant plexiglass towers, uplighting, and menus on acrylic. I stood near the dessert table in the only suit I own while Victor told a semicircle of donors about the clinic expansion, the housing grant pipeline, and talk of synergy. Someone asked me what I do. Before I could answer, Victor laughed and put a hand on my shoulder like a leash. "Alex measures hallways," he said. "He keeps tape on dreams." The donors laughed politely. Leaving, he clapped my back and whispered, "Don't slow my permit Monday, hero." It wasn't a joke. He wanted me small enough to look away. That night, I sat awake in my apartment and watched the ceiling pulse with passing headlights until a different kind of light appeared. The envelope with its thin, clean letters, waiting like an accusation I could no longer move. The envelope waited like a fuse I finally chose to light. I tried to stay in my lane. I told myself the envelope was theater, some crank and donor drag. At City Hall, I signed 3 inspection reports, argued about tempered glass, and ate a sandwich in a stairwell to avoid family questions. But small cracks widened. The Foundation's Clinic Edition required an occupancy review. In our database, the permit file carried a misfiled tag and a note to release after a press conference. That isn't a category. Someone typed it in manually. I flagged it for Dana, then unflagged it because I hate being dramatic. At lunch, my supervisor, Dana, asked if I wanted stadium overtime. I said yes, because Rent isn't impressed by principals. On the way back, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from a program director at Bright Steps, a children's nonprofit Victor Funds. Her voice trembled. Their quarterly grant, $52,000, hadn't arrived. The bank said the transfer was pending reversal. She asked if I had any updates from the city about delays. The city doesn't pay grants. My sandwich turned to chalk. At my desk, I opened the public filing. The Foundation website showed a statement. Funds disbursed on schedule. Date, the day before. I underlined reversal. Two truths were fighting in the same space. I printed the call log and stapled it to my notes. After work, I stopped by the clinic site. The new wing skeleton rose behind a glossy banner showing a toddler in a cape. A foreman told me to return with a request. I walked the perimeter anyway. Dumpster lids gaped. A man in a Foundation windbreaker photographed my badge and said permits were handled upstairs. I wrote the time, 6:18 p.m., Thursday. That night the envelope split at the corner. Inside was a single sheet, recant. No other text. Smooth as a collar. I laughed, then didn't. I copied it, sealed the original, and put it in my freezer because Uncle Ray said cold slows ink. I fell asleep on the couch, shoes on, phone face down. When I woke, 7 missed calls from an unknown number stacked like bricks. The last voicemail was only breathing and the soft click of a lighter. The doubt became a siren I finally had to follow. On Friday, the Chamber of Commerce hosted a breakfast at the Harborview. Victor worked the room like a conductor, cueing applause with a nod. I stood near the coffee urn, pretending to study a fire exit map I'd memorized years ago. When the MC praised the Foundation's flawless compliance record, Victor lifted his glass and said he welcomed oversight, especially from family who enjoy clipboards. Laughter, then eyes on me, then the soft shame of being a prop. I kept my face still. A developer I'd cited for a blocked stairwell sidled close and whispered, "Careful, Inspector. You're playing with men who purchase outcomes." I answered that doors must open outward during panic. He smirked like I'd described a fairy tale. By noon, my phone pinged with a calendar invite I didn't accept, settlement conversation, non-defamation assurance from an unfamiliar law firm. The body included a sentence that read like a snake. Your anonymous allegations have caused distress. Sign here to confirm they were misunderstood and you are not the source. They knew enough to aim for fear, not facts. I took a breath and called Uncle Ray from a bench where gulls heckled joggers. He listened, exhaled, and said, "Print everything. Make 2 copies. Put 1 off-site." Then he added, "Alex, you don't win these at breakfast. You win by being boring and correct." That night, as streetlights ghosted my blinds, I heard footsteps in my hallway and a polite knock, unhurried. I watched the peephole. A man in a gray suit held an envelope, like communion. "For Mr. Hale," he said. "You're served." I opened the door a crack. "Who filed?" He smiled. "A vendor." Inside the packet, a demand letter alleging unpaid invoices tied to the clinic build and representations of future payment from an employee named V. The letter named dates I recognized from my logs. At 11:43 p.m., a text lit my screen from a masked number. Traitor. I deleted nothing. I labeled everything. I sat with the dread like a patient animal. At 12:06, my door handle twitched once, then again, then stopped, as if someone wanted me to know they had the correct address. Mom insisted on Sunday dinner. She set the table like a truce, linen napkins folded into fans, roast chicken smelling like the past. Jessa arrived with a cheesecake and a face fixed into optimism. Victor came late, gold cufflinks flashing like punctuation. We ate in sentences broken by forks. At dessert, he leaned back and said, "We are a family, and a family does not let jealous outsiders dictate our narrative." He let the word jealous sit in my seat. Jessa reached for my hand under the table. Her palm was damp and shaking. I filed the report. I said, because the truth should not have to hide in silverware. Mom's mouth opened but forgot to shape a word. Victor's eyes cooled. You think you understand philanthropy, he said, voice even, like reading the weather. You count inches, I move hearts. You don't jeopardize a clinic because a clerk mistyped a date. October 3rd ledger, vendor number 4412, $28,750 transfer, I said. Reversed on the 5th. Where did it go? Lawyers will explain, he replied. If you retract. Jess's plea came small. Alex, just stop. He gives thousands. People depend on him. Think of optics. I am thinking of oxygen, I said. Of fire codes. Of locked cabinets and medical rooms, and who gets to hold the keys. Uncle Ray cleared his throat. He'd arrived quietly, called by Mom, who hoped he would calm me. He looked at Victor and smiled without warmth. Transparency calms people, he said. Show the disbursement trail. Victor's chair legs scraped. Ray, you retired from a strip mall tax office, he said. Do not lecture me on scale. Mom flinched. Jessa stared at her plate. I pulled a small folder from my jacket. Emails printed, dates circled. A burner address tied to Victor's aide forwarded an internal memo about holding back payments pending donor-advised sweep. The memo suggested moving money through a shell named Heron Partners. This belongs to the investigator now, I said. Victor laughed softly. Family, please witness what zealotry looks like. Then his face turned blank. You will regret choosing paper over blood. I stood, my chair light, my knees not. And then our doorbell rang 3 times in quick succession like an alarm no one wanted to claim. At the door stood a courier with a padded mailer and a carbon receipt. Signature for Elise Hale, he said, glancing at our faces as if tasting weather. Victor took the package. Inside lay a thin binder with a blue tab, clinic expansion, vendor packet, and a yellow sticky. Return to accounting. Do not copy. Uncle Ray raised an eyebrow. Victor flipped pages carelessly, then closed it. Internal, he said. Boring. I asked to see it. Victor's smile said earn it. Mom, ever the broker, said. Alex will look with you here, Victor. He hesitated, then placed it on the table like bait. We scanned invoices, drywall, HVAC, med gas piping. Most ordinary. Then duplication. 2 invoices with the same vendor ID 4412, different names, Bayfield Interiors and Bayfield Interior Solutions, and consecutive dates. The amounts differed by $28, and the font changed midline like a costume. Uncle Ray tapped the table. That's not sloppy, he murmured. That's intentional. I took out my phone, opened the state registry, searched Bayfield Interiors. No listing. Bayfield Interior Solutions showed AP. Box, registered agent tied to Heron Partners. My stomach tightened. Jessa whispered, This is over my head. Victor said, You're harassing paperwork. The binder's last tab held emails to a burner account, VH Projects at Proton Mail, forwarding PDF edits at 2:13 a.m. for months ago. The subject, backdate to align with gala announcement. Why a burner? I asked. To avoid spam, Victor answered smoothly. Uncle Ray said, To avoid discovery. We heard a car door slam outside. Headlights moved along the wall. Victor checked his watch. I have another event. He lifted the binder. I placed my hand on it. It stays, I said. He smiled without teeth. You can't even keep your own apartment tidy, he murmured. You think you can hold me? Mom whispered, Please, both of you. I snapped a photo of the duplicate invoices and slid my copy of the sticky note into my pocket. When Victor finally left, the house exhaled, and Mom cried quietly into a dish towel, like someone apologizing to water. Then my phone vibrated with a new email from VH Projects, sent by mistake or arrogance, containing a single line and a PDF I did not expect to see tonight. The email's body read, Confirm transfer before Monday a.m. DF sweep must match press release. Attached, Heron Partners, donor advised transfer calendar Q4. The PDF listed dates and amounts mapping to public posts about scholarships and the clinic build. On October 3rd, $28,750. On October 5th, reversal to holding account. On October 6th, temporary pass-through via Bayfield Interior Solutions. A dotted arrow pointed to Hale Holdings, LLC Westview. My pulse kept time with the dots. Monday morning, I visited Seacoast Bank's downtown branch on my break. I asked to confirm a nonprofit disbursement as part of city due diligence, which is true often enough to sound true now. The clerk, a woman with patient eyes, checked the public ledger and frowned. The origin account is a donor-advised fund, she said. Transfers sometimes bundle. Her voice slowed as she read a note only staff see. She looked up, careful. There's an internal hold instruction pending compliance review. Why? I asked. I can't say, she said, then slid a card. Our compliance officer can call you if you have a formal request. I wrote the time, 9:47 a.m. Monday. On my way out, a man in a navy blazer watched me like a locked door. Outside, a message from Dana. Developer complain about you. We'll chat. I breathed, then walked to the records office where public filings live in plastic sleeves no one visits unless they mean it. I compared timestamps on permit uploads to the Foundation's glossy press releases saved on the Wayback Cache. The press posts announced fully funded projects days before transfers even left the donor-advised account. Not illegal by itself, but like walking on a roof before securing the harness. After work, I found the Foundation's former assistant, Kara, pouring coffee at a diner off Route 1. She left 6 months ago, pregnant and tired. I asked about VH projects. She laughed without joy. That was Victor's vision hub, she said. He liked stealth. He liked to say optics is oxygen. She lowered her voice. He hated waiting for money to actually arrive. My phone buzzed again. Unknown caller. Stop digging, Inspector, a voice said. This town is smaller than your courage. I paid Kara's check, thanked her, and walked into rain that felt like advice. And then I saw the same navy blazer from the bank leaning on my car door, smiling like a locksmith who memorized my hinges. Navy Blazer introduced himself as Mark from Facilities, which is like calling a wolf dog-shaped. He said Victor wanted a peaceful conversation, that misunderstandings around donor-advised timing could be cleared if I stopped, making compliance nervous. He handed me a card with no last name and an address that mapped to a co-working mailbox. People are grateful for the Foundation, he said. They remember who helps, Alex. I asked who forgets. He smiled. Auditors forget when they're bored. When I didn't answer, his smile thinned. Don't make this exciting. That night, Uncle Ray and I spread papers on my kitchen table. He wore his old green visor for luck, an accountant's superstition. We charted arrows from Heron Partners to 2 shells I hadn't clocked. Sable Creek LLC and Sunsp Advisory, both formed within weeks of the gala. The arrows looped. Donor-advised fund shell vendor celebratory press post partial refund, advisory fee, to Hale Holdings, LLC Westview. The structure looked less like charity and more like an irrigation system rerouting water to a single private fountain. I called Bright Steps director, the woman with the trembling voice, and asked if her board ever signed give-back letters. She went silent, then said a courier once delivered a temporary loan agreement she refused to sign. They said the money needed to season in their account first, she whispered. I told them kids don't season. She forwarded me a scan, letter of understanding, circular grant, dated 2 days before a ribbon cutting. I stared at the circle until my eyes ached. Shell donors. Circular grants. Intimidation by softness, smiles, social pressure. Hush terms like optics and season. The what stood solid now, a machine with polished brass, humming in public. The why was still fog, ego, leverage, debt, or simply the thrill of moving people like coins. I emailed the investigator a clean packet with file names like 2025-10-03_ledger_28750_ref, PDF and vendor 4412_dup_invoices. JPG. Then I backed it up to a USB labeled with a grocery list. Ray patted the drive like a sleeping cat. We're past the point of fiction, he said. Now we need witnesses. I texted Mom and Jessa to meet me Wednesday. No surprises, neutral ground, witnesses. And then an alert flashed. A change on the clinic's permit file stamped from my own login. I rushed to City Hall before sunrise. My badge opened the records room. The fluorescents hummed like bees in boxes. On the clinic permit, under my credentials, someone had toggled OK to occupy. Post announcement. The timestamp read 3:22 a.m. I hadn't been awake. I printed the audit log and called Dana. She answered on the second ring, voice flat. Tell me you didn't touch that file, she said. I told her I'd bring proof I hadn't. Silence. Then, meet me at 9. Bring everything. And Alex, forward nothing else from work email. I spent the next 2 hours building a plan that felt like scaffolding, ugly but load-bearing. Step 1. Separate personal copies from city records. Keep chain of custody clean. Step 2. Gather corroboration outside family lines. Kara, Bright Steps, the bank compliance officer. Step 3. Secure counsel to avoid getting sued into dust. Ray called his old colleague who knew attorney Priya Patel, a careful litigator who liked receipts more than rhetoric. She agreed to meet Tuesday if I brought exact documents, not a story. At lunch, I recorded a call with the number behind VH Projects, after checking our state's one-party consent rules twice. The voice that answered was Victor's aide, Evan. Yes, another Evan, who stammered when I asked why the Bayfield invoices shared a vendor ID. It's a labeling thing, he said. Our bookkeeper fixed it. I asked for the corrected invoices. He hung up. Minutes later, an email arrived. Cease and desist. Defamation. CC&G, a partner at the same firm from the breakfast invite. I nearly folded. Then Dana texted. I made IT pull your login history. You're clear. She added. Someone spoofed your credentials from an external IP. My stomach dropped and then steadied. The plan needed speed and sunlight. I booked a conference room at the bank for Wednesday morning under Ray's name, pretended it was for estate planning, and asked compliance, via the patient-eyed clerk, to join us to clarify nonprofit funds. I called Priya's office and secured Tuesday night prep. Finally, I left Mom a message. Wednesday, 10 a.m. Seacoast, please come. Bring Jessa. I set down my pen, and then a black sedan idled outside my window, engine purring like a promise I didn't want kept. The family dinner happened Tuesday because Mom said waiting breeds poison. She made stew, the kind that tastes like time. Victor arrived with roses and a magazine photographer trailing, a human interest feature. Mom sent the photographer away. Victor said, privacy is so chic. At the table, he played generous. Alex, your work matters, he announced. We all just need to avoid misinterpretations that could hurt children. He passed biscuits like absolution. I asked, which misinterpretation? October 3rd reversal or vendor 4412's twin? His eyes cooled. Donor-advised timing is sophisticated, he said. You are not. Jess's voice was a wire about to snap. Please, both of you, just don't blow this up. Victor leaned in, softness gone. I know about your little meeting, he said. Cancel it. Or your department hears you extort nonprofits for dates. Mom's spoon clinked against the pot like a clock. I felt myself tipping. He framed me as a zealot. He promised to bury me in paperwork until my rent noticed. He knew my weak spots. Duty, order, the need to be seen as reasonable. Uncle Ray's hand landed on my shoulder like ballast. Victor, he said calmly, you're confusing intimidation with argument. He turned to me. Alex, finish your meal. Then follow your calendar. He lowered his voice. Bullies depend on appetite. Starve them. I looked at Mom, at Jess's clenched napkin, at Victor's tailored patience. The room felt small and bright like a stage. I said, we'll show the receipts tomorrow. If they clear you, great. Victor raised his glass. To families who choose unity over spectacle, he said. I didn't drink. After dinner, on the porch, Mom pressed my hand. He can be cruel, she whispered. He also saved Jess's job. I said, he isn't saving, he's buying. She flinched like a truth found a bone. Inside my car, my phone buzzed. An unknown text with my apartment's front door photo and a line. Nice lock. Pity about the hinges. I started the engine. And then the porch light exploded with a pop, showering our welcome mat with glass like glittering warnings. I barely slept, but Tuesday night with attorney Priya Patel taught me how to breathe while documenting a fire. She wore quiet shoes and brought a scanner. We don't accuse, she said. We show. We ask questions a judge would ask. She arranged our evidence into 3 stacks: transfers versus press claims, vendor ID irregularities, DF holds, and reversals. She added a 4th, retaliation artifacts, the envelope, texts, spoofed login report. Invite your mother and sister, she said. Not to hurt them, to free them from private pressure. Wednesday, 10 a.m., Seacoast Bank, glass-walled conference room. a bowl of mints like pale pebbles. The compliance officer, Ms. Rowan, arrived with a tablet. Priya greeted her like an old classmate. Respect gathered in the room. 10 minutes later, Mom and Jessa slipped in, eyes wide. Victor entered last, on time by his own clock, with navy blazer marks shadowing him like punctuation again. Priya opened. Thank you for meeting. We have a narrow goal: to reconcile public statements with transaction records for charitable disbursements related to clinic expansion and grants. She clicked the screen. October 3rd ledger, vendor number 4412, $28,750 transfer, reversal October 5th, pass-through October 6th to Bayfield Interior Solutions. Advisory fee to Hale Holdings, Westview. She said advisory fee gently, like a bruise. Ms. Rowan's brows knit. She tapped her tablet. I can confirm there were internal holds, she said carefully. I cannot discuss clients, but I can explain mechanisms. Victor cut in. This is defamatory theater. Priya didn't blink. Defamation requires falsity, she said. We're using your own filings, Mr. Hale. I turned to Jessa and Mom. We asked you here so you hear it once, clean. Ms. Rowan cleared her throat. I can speak generally. If donor-advised funds route to entities controlled by the recommending individual without arm's-length service, compliance flags those flows. Mark stood. We're done. Priya smiled. One more item. Vendor duplication. 2 invoices filled the screen, identical ID, different names. Victor's jaw flexed. His mask almost slipped, almost. And then Priya played the short recording where Victor's aide promised to fix labels before an audit, and the mask shattered audibly. Silence pounded like surf. Victor looked at Mom first, then at Jessa, measuring loss. He straightened, reassembled charm. Everyone uses special purpose entities, he said. We moved funds temporarily to secure discounts. Optics require coordination. Priya nodded as if in class. Then you'll welcome clarity, she said, sliding a printed flowchart across the table. It traced money from DEF 1129 to Bayfield Interior Solutions to Hale Holdings, LLC Westview, then to escrow. Mariner Towers Penthouse 47B, a luxury property under contract 6 weeks after the clinic gala. Dates glowed like coals. Victor scoffed. Coincidence. Ms. Rowan spoke, measured. A donor-advised fund cannot be used for personal benefit, directly or indirectly, she said. When transfers correlate to private real estate escrows, we halt disbursements pending review. Jessa whispered, penthouse. Victor didn't answer. Mom pressed a trembling hand to her chest. Priya clicked again. Circular grant. Give back letter. The One Bright Steps refused to sign. Several nonprofits were pressured to temporarily return funds, she said. That's not charity. That's choreography. Victor turned to me. The smile burned away. You did this to impress your little department, he hissed. You hate that people love me. I hate that kids were told to wait while your escrow cleared, I said. He pounded the table once. The mints jumped. Mark stepped forward, then stopped when Ms. Rowan's security guard appeared in the doorway, as if conjured by policy. Priya looked at Mom. We can formalize an agreement. If Victor cooperates, opens books, unwinds transfers, resigns control, prosecutors sometimes consider remedies that prioritize restitution. Victor laughed, sharp. You think I'll sign my name to your little morality play? Priya folded her hands. No, she said. I think you'll deny everything until discovery. Victor turned to leave, then spat it out like a bitter seed. Fine. Yes. I moved money because I refused to watch idiots delay vision. He pointed at me. This is your fault. The room exhaled, stunned by the slip. And then Ms. Rowan said she was formally escalating to federal regulators, effective immediately, with written notice arriving today. The next 48 hours spun like laundry in a coin machine. The foundation's website went under maintenance. The clinic ribbon cutting postponed with a chirpy post about supply chain surprises. Reporters called my desk after someone leaked the meeting's existence. Dana took my inspections and reassigned them. Not as punishment, she said, but to give you space while we keep the city boring. One developer filed a complaint accusing me of bias against innovation, which earned me a meeting with HR and a polite email reminding everyone of civility. At home, my mailbox filled with threats and thank yous. A grandmother from Bright Steps wrote that her grandson got medication because of people like you. Another note said, "Rats drown loudly." I replaced my front door screws with longer ones and started a low whistle when I turned the deadbolt to hear company. Sleep came like a loan with interest. Jessa stopped answering for a day, then showed up with a duffel, cheeks raw from crying. "He threatened to pull funding from the academy if I stayed with you," she said. "So I left. Do I live here now?" We made tea and a schedule. Ray came by with a new router and set up a VPN because spoofing thrives on laziness. Mom called at midnight. Her voice was small. "He says you've ruined us," she said. But when I asked about the penthouse, he called me provincial. I told her love is not a non-disclosure agreement. She hung up, then texted, "I'm scared." Priya moved like tide, steady, pulling. She filed notices, coordinated with regulators, and kept me from answering journalists with catharsis instead of facts. "You'll pay a price," she warned. "Bullies don't write checks without notes." She was right. My landlord got a call from a concerned citizen about unsafe cooking smells, and an inspector, my colleague, arrived awkwardly with a form. We laughed, then filled it out like adults. I sat on the floor that night, back against the couch, reading the cease and desist letter again until the words blurred. And then my phone lit with a message from Mom. A photo of packed suitcases and the words, "I'm coming to you now." Mom arrived at dawn, carrying 2 bags and a silence shaped like a life. She stood in my doorway, as if unsure which part of the floor would hold. Jessa wrapped her in a hug that made all 3 of us sway. We made coffee, sat among piles of affidavits and highlighters, and began the unglamorous work of healing. Calendars, chores, rules. Rule 1, no yelling before breakfast. Rule 2, every ask in writing. Rule 3, help is help only if it keeps its receipts. Priya drafted a conditional support agreement for family. If Mom needed mortgage assistance because Victor's assets froze, we'd help through a transparent escrow, not through favors. If Jessa needed job leads, we'd ask the academy board, not benefactors with strings. "Boundaries are love wearing steel-toed boots," Priya said. We started therapy, group first, then one-on-ones. The therapist asked us to list what we each protected when we lied by omission. Mom wrote peace. Jessa wrote status. I wrote order. The therapist circled all 3. "See how they rhyme?" she said. At night, I walked the harbor path and counted buoys until my breath matched the water. I returned calls from small nonprofits who wanted to know if they were tainted by association. I told them the truth. If they kept clean books, they were fine. If anyone asked for temporary returns, call council first, then regulators. Ray helped a clinic set up a proper segregated account with dual signatures so gifts don't evaporate into feelings. Victor left 2 voicemails that started gentle and ended sharp. "You can come back from this," he said in the first. "You will starve," he said in the second. Priya advised no contact. We complied. Ms. Rowan emailed that external inquiries were active. I filed the message in a folder called Sunlight. On Sunday, we cooked pasta in one pot and spoke like people, not hostages. I caught Mom watching steam rise like hope learning a new shape. And then a certified letter slid under my door, summoning me to testify before a grand jury next Thursday morning. The day before I testified, I walked to the clinic site alone. The banner still showed the Cape toddler. Wind had frayed one corner, so it flapped like a warning flag. I stood by the fence and remembered every inspection where someone begged for just this once, and every fire code that read like a prayer written by those who learned the hard way. I thought of Victor, a man who mistook applause for oxygen, of Mom, who mistook quiet for safety, of Jessa, who mistook favors for love, and of myself, who mistook order for courage until courage demanded noise. In the grand jury room, everything was beige and humming. I answered questions in plain language with dates and amounts. October 3rd ledger, $28,750. Reversal October 5th. Pass-through October 6th. Give back letter and signed. Vendor ID 4412 duplicated. I said, I don't know when I didn't. I said, yes, that's my recording when it was. When it ended, I felt emptied, not victorious. Outside, the sky was ordinary and therefore perfect. Healing is slow. My job is under review, but stable. The clinic's legitimate programs are being shepherded by trustees who care more about medicine than galas. Mom is learning to sleep without checking a phone she no longer answers. Jessa applied for a position funded by a community grant with public oversight. Ray bought a new visor, ceremonially ridiculous. Priya sent a rare emoji, a scale. Here is my advice for anyone sitting on a secret that burns holes in your pockets. Document. Don't dramatize. Recruit boring people who love truth. Put everything in writing. Learn your state's recording laws, and insist on segregated accounts and dual signatures before a single ribbon is cut. Love your family enough to refuse their delusions. Choose sunlight, even when it makes you squint. I still walk the harbor most nights and count buoys until my breath steadies. And then, last evening, a quiet knock came at my door that did not feel like a threat.